Hello and welcome to News Centre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Temple inauguration and bilateral talks are on top of the agenda as Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Dubai for the first leg of his UAE Qatar visit. This is Prime Minister Modi's 7th visit to UAE since 2014. UAE President Mohammed Zayed was the chief guest at the vibrant Gujarat summit. Earlier this year, the Prime Minister will address the World Summit in Dubai tomorrow. An interaction with the Indian diaspora in Abu Dhabi is also on the cards. He will also be inaugurating UAE's first Hindu temple. Later, Modi will fly to Qatar, where he is scheduled to meet the Emir. This will be his second visit to the nation as Prime Minister. His visit comes days after the release of 7 of the 8 former Indian Navy personnel who were put on the death row by the Qatar government. The 8th Navy personnel is yet to return to India. Joining us now to take this forward is Foreign Affairs expert Brahma Chellaney, who is also a professor at the Center for Policy Research, and former Foreign Secretary Shashank. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Shashank, if I can begin with you, the significance of the Prime Minister's visit to UAE. All right, I have been told that Ambassador Shashank is not yet with us. Let me go across to Brahma Chellaney. Brahma Chellaney, if you are with us, could you please give us a sense of the significance of the Prime Minister's visit to Qatar this time around, soon after the announcement of the release of the 8 Indian nationals?
The visit to Qatar is less understandable than Modi's visit to the UAE. The visit to the UAE is significant because in a period of 9 years, Prime Minister Modi has built very strong ties with the UAE. In fact, he has built a strong personal rapport with the Emirati President, Sheikh Mohammed. Sheikh Mohammed is also, besides being the president of the UAE, he is the ruler of Abu Dhabi, which explains why this massive temple, Hindu temple, is going to be inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi. It was thanks to Sheikh Mohammed that construction of this temple could proceed, and now Mr. Modi is inaugurating it. As far as the trip to Qatar is concerned, it's not clear as to what Prime Minister Modi will seek to achieve from this trip. The Qatari government locked up 8 Indians for 17 months on trumped-up charges. They released the 8 after extracting their pound of flesh. India signed a long-term gas deal, Petronet, with Qatar Energy. In addition, other state-run Indian LNG importers like GAIL and Indian Oil Corporation have also committed to boost their gas imports from Qatar. The fact that the Qatari authorities kept these 8 ex-Navy men in solitary confinement. They went through the charade of a trial. They were sentenced to death. It took Mr. Modi's personal intervention to get them released. So while the UAE trip is going to be significant, I am not clear about what Mr. Modi seeks to achieve from going to Doha at this stage.
Right. Let me go across to Ambassador Shashank. Ambassador Shashank, we've got 3.3 million Indian citizens in UAE, 8 lakh Indian citizens residing in Qatar. What will this visit do? What will the Prime Minister's visit do to elevate India-UAE ties at this juncture, India-Qatar ties at this juncture?
Well, during his meetings with the Indian community living abroad, Prime Minister Modi has made this point repeatedly, that whatever color of passport they might be holding, but they remain very much Indians, and they carry the Indian culture, civilization, heritage with them. So he will make sure that if they have any issues, then they would be tackled at the most efficient and effective level by the government of India. And I think he has done that during his 2 terms. That right from the beginning, Sushma Swarajji, then General V.K. Singh, and now we find that he himself got involved with regard to the Indian servicemen. So I think that's very important. And I think he has been able to build these ties, particularly with countries in the Gulf, who believe too much in personal rapport, personal relationships, rather than only having good knowledge of English language. So therefore, while with the Western countries, we can go on the basis of the written documents, with regard to our relations with countries which do not have that much proficiency in English, I think it's a question of the personal relationships and the personal trust which they can have. And I think in many of these countries, we have many teachers, scientists, engineers, doctors who have great respect, who they have earned respect of the local communities and everyone else. So while they may have gone there to earn money, but they have also provided services which are not rendered by many other people. I remember I have been in Libya, and where many times the Libyans told me that the Egyptians or the Pakistanis would tell them, why employ Indians? Better to take the Muslims from other countries. So they said, no, but they are so good. And they give their best services to our communities. So definitely we will go for them. So this is the situation, I think, in many of these Arab countries, and Gulf countries are no exception.
Right. The other thing I'd like to ask you, Mr. Chellaney, that you are saying that there is some sort of linkage with the $78 billion deal to extend LNG imports from Qatar by another 20 years. But why is Qatar crucial from an outreach point of view for India right now? Its importance in the Middle East, its importance in the Israel-Hamas war and bringing the war to an end. Why is this relationship extremely important?
The relationship with Qatar is important because it's a very important gas exporter. It's sitting on huge gas reserves. It's going to tap a new gas field, and therefore it's seeking new markets. It wants to increase its share of the Indian market. Also because Qatar has been using its gas wealth to prop up violent jihadists elsewhere, including Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, and by playing both arsonist and firefighter, is seeking to leverage its position, trying to be a mediator now, for example, between Israel and Hamas. And also, we shouldn't forget that there are about 8 lakh Indians living in Qatar, working there. And therefore, Qatar is an important partner for India. But there have been a couple of things that have stood out in a very jarring manner. Qatar went out of its way. It took the lead, in fact, in protesting Nupur Sharma's comments in middle of 2022. And then a few months later, it arbitrarily arrested 8 ex-Indian Navy men who were working in Doha as consultants. So those two incidents were quite jarring, but otherwise, Qatar is an important country for India. As far as the UAE is concerned, we neglected that country for many decades. In fact, when Prime Minister Modi went there in 2015 on his first visit as the Indian leader, he ended a 34-year gap. The last visit to UAE was by Indira Gandhi in 1981. But for many Indians, Dubai is such an important tourist attraction. It's also a transit point for people flying to other places in the world. And for 34 years, no Indian Prime Minister went to the UAE. But since his first visit in 2015, Modi has been repeatedly going there, and the UAE leadership has been coming to India. In fact, the present president of UAE, Sheikh Mohammed, even came to the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit, which was exceptional because he normally doesn't travel to such economic summit meetings. So the fact that Modi and Sheikh Mohammed have built a strong personal rapport is providing the momentum to UAE-India ties, and those ties have expanded to different areas: defense, security, education, investment, trade. And as Ambassador Shashank rightly pointed out, that in international relations, more than cold calculations of national interest, it's personal chemistry that matters.
Right. Let me go back to Ambassador Shashank at this point. Ambassador Shashank, considering what's happening geopolitically, and we are preparing for energy disruptions later this year in case the war in the Middle East escalates, why is it important for us to have Plan B, Plan C right now? And what do we expect from UAE and Qatar at a time of global disruptions and global volatility?
Well, we have to prepare ourselves for all these contingencies, but at the same time, our energy requirements are going to increase continuously. We have to tie up energy supplies from wherever we can get, and I think this is a right opportunity that we got. If Qatar and many of the Gulf countries earlier thought that India provided cheap labor, and so they used to compare us more with Pakistani labor, Bangladeshi labor, all that impression has changed. And I remember that at some stage when Pakistan wanted to influence the OIC countries meeting in UAE to say that, well, India should not be invited or something like this. So they said, well, okay, then you can leave the meeting if you're not interested. So I think these are the kind of things with respect for Indian heritage, Indian civilization, which has come about. And I think this temple which has been built and which will be a showpiece of Indian culture in the Gulf countries, I think would be also very important. Oman, of course, had already got some temples in the past. They had old connections with India. But I think now we are building these new connections of mutual respect, mutual exchanges. I think that will be really very good. So I think India is building new kind of ties. At the same time, we have our own gas supplies. We have to see that whatever gas supplies we can get from Andaman Sea, we should work on that. For too long, we decided to keep them capped because of security reasons. But I think now time has come that we really monetize our own resources also.
Right. And you rightly put it that the launch of the Hindu temple in UAE is important because it sets up a base for closer energy ties, closer business ties, and somehow smoothens the relations further between the two countries. Thank you once again, Ambassador Shashank and Brahma Chellaney, for joining us for that comprehensive discussion on the Prime Minister's visit to the UAE and Qatar. We're going to take a short break here, but don't go anywhere. Up next, an interaction with London's Lord Mayor Michael Mainelli on the latest in India-UK FTA negotiations, the potential areas of collaboration between the two countries, and the UK-India infrastructure bridge that was launched last week.